Kyogo Furuhashi, but that's a push on the defender Bashiri, and that's going to be a free kick to Hibs. Good noise in here, good atmosphere, and the rain, which has been coming down pretty much non-stop all day, has now eased as well ahead of kick-off, as David Marshall, wearing all pink, blasted out to the far side. Eli Yuan has controlled it very well, and he's got inside of Hitate, who's not a natural fullback, to the byline on the left, keeps it in, swings in a low cross, and that's a corner for Hibs. That is the sort of pace, the injection that Hibs will want to see against the league leaders tonight.
Yeah, and that's probably the area of the pitch where they think they can get a little bit of joy. Reo Hatate isn't the natural right back. Yes, he's dynamic and he's good with the ball. Can he defend 1v1? He certainly showed a weakness there.
Josip Juranovic is on the bench this evening, having done so well with Croatia the World Cup. But Hitate starting at right back as the corner is swung in, and it's headed straight back out again by Cameron Carter-Vickers, and that will be a second corner in succession to Hibs, left-hand side of the field as they come forward. This is 5 Live and BBC Sounds, Easter Road, Wednesday evening. I did have to check. You lose track of what day it is around this time of year. I believe it is a Wednesday. Here comes the delivery from the left-hand side. It nearly bounced up. Just for a moment it looked like Kevin Nisbet was going to get a chance with his left boot, but it wouldn't sit for him, and Celtic relieved Stephen to clear it away.
Yeah, certainly giving Hibs plenty of encouragement. You know, the one thing Celtic don't have is dominating players physically. I mean, with regards height, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Carl Starfelt, that's about it, so it's an opportunity for Hibs.
Here comes McGuinness, who scored 2 of the goals against Livingston at Christmas Eve, but he can't find his way through a congested midfield, and that's a poor pass out of defence by Craig Taylor for Celtic, which will allow Chris Cadden to come forward. Hibs playing left to right as we look down. Chance to cross from the right hand side, and it comes. Chance to the legs of the goalkeeper and scored, but the flag is up, and the celebrations for Hibs are muted. Chris Cadden, the right back, was in. Great finish, but he was offside.
Well, I have to say, Hibs have started the game really well. We said it, they had to be aggressive. Of course, there will be a VAR check just to make sure he is offside, but it was wonderful play by Cadden and by Kevin Nisbet. Lovely flick around the corner. They've certainly set their stall out.
This referee tonight, Alan Muir, just with his hand raised above his head, and he's telling Joe Hart now he can resume, so the VAR check is complete, and that goal doesn't stand. Well, I'm sure had it done so, it would have gone down very well in Ibrox. What's the latest? Rangers Motherwell, Gavin Wallace.
Still 1-0 at the moment here, and Rangers are still all over Motherwell just now. Borna Banisic enjoying far too much room down this left-hand side, and that's what led to the goal in 13 minutes. Rangers 1, Motherwell 0.
Michael Beale hoping to make it 4 wins out of 4 in his new job. So a bright start to the game here. Rangers ahead already at Ibrox. What about the game in the Premier League this evening? It's at Elland Road. We'll go in just a moment after Stevenson swings it across on the left-hand side. Nisbet again, and a sliding defender puts it out for a corner. Let's go to Lee Blakeman.
Leeds 0, Manchester City 0. City should be ahead. Haaland in the first minute, played through from the halfway line. Just Meslier to beat. Keeper made himself big, made the block. Danger cleared. Leeds 0, Manchester City 0.
3 minutes played at Easter Road. This is Hibs' 3rd corner of the game already. They've had the ball in the back of the net and disallowed for offside. Much movement from a flurry of players around the penalty spot area. It came in close to Rocky Bashiri, but he was beaten in the air, and Celtic are relieved to get it away. The clearance by Matt O'Reilly up to the halfway line. Abada will hold it up, challenged by McGuinness, and the ball goes out of play for a Celtic throw, taken quickly down that right-hand side. Reo Hatate up from right back, swings it in, diving header just off target from Maeda. What a goal that would have been. A lightning fast counter-attack from Celtic. Maeda seemed to react perfectly, but his header was too much of a glance, and with the goal at his mercy, he's put it wide.
He should score, shouldn't he? You know, he managed to find the space in off Chris Cadden, but you just go back to the throw-in. The minute the ball goes out of play, Celtic pick it up, they throw it right away. Hibs can't switch off, you can't filter back into your sheet. You've got to look at the runners, but Reo Hatate, what a cross, and Maeda should have scored.
Yes, that was so inviting, and he seemed to be doing everything right, Maeda, the way he reacted with his body, but didn't get a firm enough touch, and it glanced across the face of goal and wide. Hibs 0, Celtic 0. Promising start so far that this might well turn out to be a very entertaining game. Carl Starfelt gives it to the left-hand side for Celtic. Maeda will attack the edge of the penalty area. Low ball into Kyogo, and then a soft touch in there is easily cleared away as Hibs are relieved to get it up towards the halfway line. 0-0 here.
Yeah, just looking back at the chance a couple of minutes ago before we threw to the Leeds game, Reo Hatate again being picked out on that right hand side for Celtic. Hibs are trying to play down and overload him in a 2v1 situation. I've said he's not a natural right back. He's fine when he's going forward, but I think that's a couple of times he's been exposed.
Hibs have held Celtic scoreless in each of the last 2 seasons here, including the last time these teams met here at Easter Road. That was back in February. We've come so close to goals at both ends in the early stages, but still 0-0 for now. Taylor's ball forward is cut out. Hibs try to go long, looking for Nisbet. Controlled by Carl Starfelt. Back down on the deck by Callum McGregor, who got the winner against Aberdeen recently. And then Cameron Carter-Vickers, who played for the USA at the World Cup, gives it out to the right-hand side to Abada. He's low ball towards the edge of the penalty area, is cut out, and Hibs clear the ball away. Celtic look to move into a bit of a groove now, having weathered an early Hibs storm. Flurry of activity from the hosts in the opening minutes. Maeda tries to run into the penalty area, held up by Chris Cadden on the right-hand side. Hitate tries from distance to go for it. It's way off target. That is not troubling David Marshall's goal at all. Goal kick to Hibs. 0-0 it remains on 5 Live.
Yeah, that was the first time in the game, really. Listen, it's only 6 minutes old, where Celtic have made 6, 7, 8, 9 passes, and you can see Hibs wanting to filter back into a defensive shape. They know how good they are at finding pockets of space, but you know, there are going to be times in the game you're going to have to come off it. You have to absorb the pressure, soak it up. But once you win the ball, can you get the ball forward to Kevin Nisbet with a little bit of quality? 7
minutes played, no goals. Celtic, who lost to St Mirren in September. Since then it's been 11 league victories in a row. It's their best run since Ange Postecoglou's arrival. And if they do go on to make it 12 tonight, Celtic, it'll be the first time that their fans will enjoy 12 straight league wins in over 5 years. These are the very high standards that Celtic are setting at the moment. Cameron Carter-Vickers has it bang on the halfway line. Short to Rio Hitate, back again to the American. Back to Hitate, and they're just playing 1-2s between each other round about the centre circle. Hibs, early gusto, but now sitting a bit deeper, and they can't afford to be completely gung-ho all the way through. Let's snip back to Elland Road, an 8 o'clock start to in the Premier League. Leeds against Manchester City, the return to Yorkshire of Erling Haaland. Lee Blakeman.
Leeds 0, Manchester City 0. Haaland's had a couple of chances, but Kevin De Bruyne has just got oh so close. It was Rico Lewis down the right, pulled back to Kevin De Bruyne, edge of the area, and he shot wide. Steve Stone.
Well, we're just expecting the ball to hit the back of the net from where we were. It was a lovely little cut back by Lewis. The back of the net, we're just going to see it's going to curl in the bottom corner. Got to say as well, Haaland, he's been lively right from the start. He's playing ever so well. He's coming off, he's linking the play, then he's spinning in behind and giving the 2 centre-halves all sorts of problems. Also at the minute, Leeds are struggling to get any sort of possession on the ball. Man City are pressing them really high and dictating the whole game.
7 played, Leeds 0, Manchester City 0.
Well, thanks very much for the delay in play here. Carl Starfelt is down, looks like he's going to need some treatment. I believe tonight the first time that Erling Haaland, born in Leeds when his dad Alfie was playing for the club, but it's the first time he's ever played a game at Elland Road. Leeds just 2 points above the relegation, so we'll be back to Lee and Steve throughout the evening as is required. At the moment though, Hibs 0, Celtic 0 here at Easter Road. And in Ibrox, Gavin Wallace.
23 minutes on the clock, it's Rangers 1, Motherwell 0. The difference is Borna Barisic with a great ball in from the left-hand side, and he found that Colombian striker Alfredo Morelos for his 5th league goal of the season. It was a great ball in, and it was on his head, and he could not miss from 6 yards. Other than that though, there's been a whole host of Rangers possession, but nothing coming from it. Rangers 1, Motherwell 0.
Abada on the attack for Celtic, pushes it to the byline in front of Matt O'Reilly, and Celtic are going to get a corner here. Corner on the right-hand side. We just had a moment while we were hearing from events at Rangers. Ryan Porteous trying to play a long ball, and he just signposted a bit too obviously, just took too long to deliver, and he was shut down in the midfield. And it's another reminder that you do not get any time against Moy and McGregor and O'Reilly as Aaron Moy swings in the corner from the right-hand side. It is Ryan Porteous who heads it away. Good distance on the header too, but McGregor picks it up in the midfield. He's got a bat outside him on the right. O'Reilly in front of Moy, that's a very clever ball, and Moy lashes it across the face of goal from a tight angle. Do you think Stephen Craig, he was trying to shoot himself there? He had 2 players inside, but the pace on that from Aaron Moy, was that meant to be a cross?
I think he was going for the shot. I think when he lifts his head, there's actually 5 Hibs defenders and 2 Celtic attackers. So he's looking at the law of averages and thinking, I'm probably not going to be able to find a teammate. It's too congested. And he had a strike at goal. David Marshall was trying to kind of come off his line to try and get the cross, but it was a decent strike. But you can see Celtic now really in full flow, moving the ball well, overloads in wide areas. But Hibs, at some time, someone has to go and break, someone has to go and try and press to get them up the pitch.
Header by Kyoko Furuhashi in the midfield is accurate, gives possession to Aaron Moy. His pass not accurate, too close to Chris Cadden and easily cleared away out for a Celtic throw. Still 0-0 here in Edinburgh. That's a good throw. Moy into the penalty area, tries to pull it back. It came off the shoulder of Maeda. He couldn't control it. Hibs get it out of the penalty area, but Celtic look to still have possession. Good hustling for it by Josh Campbell. And Hibs will break up towards the halfway line. That's a good ball. Campbell picking out Eli Yuan. The one goal that he's got this season came against Celtic in the league in October. Nicely paid to Stevenson. Low ball across the edge of the 6-yard box. And Carl Starfelt, who was receiving treatment a moment ago, is the man who clears it away. Good counter-attack from Hibs, though. And this might well be the template tonight of how they might get some joy.
Once again, it's Rio Hatate. They're targeting down that right-hand side. They're trying to overload him. Leila Bada's going to have to double up. He's going to have to help him out. And Cameron Carter-Vickers as well. But you're right, Hibs really dynamic on the counter-attack. Excellent play.
Hibs beat Livingston 4-0 here last time out. Livingston tonight are in action against St Mirren, and early on they are down to 10 men. Pittman sent off. Livingston 0, St Mirren 0. Hibs have possession. Right-hand side of the midfield with Chris Cadden. Plays it forward for Kyle McGuinness. He's only started 3 league games now this season. Rocky Bashiri under pressure from Furuhashi. Goes for the safety first option and puts the ball out of play. Very close to Ange Postecoglou down below us. Throw in to Celtic, and they wait for the ball to come back from the crowd.
Yeah, Kevin Nisbet at times has just been isolated, isn't he? You know, he's trying to take control of Carl Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Johan certainly looks as if he's got enough on the left-hand side to pose a problem, as is Kyle McGuinness, but Celtic content just to rotate the ball, wait for spaces and gaps to appear.
5 other games taking place tonight in the Scottish Premiership, so all 12 teams involved up and down the land. Dundee United 1, Ross County 0. Dundee United bottom of the table, but their home form is much improved, and they could be moving off the bottom of the table tonight if it stays like that. Kilmarnock 0, Aberdeen 0. Livingston 0, St Mirren 0. We told you Livingston are down to 10 men. Rangers in front against Motherwell, and Hearts lead away at St Johnstone. 0-0 between Hibs and Celtic here. Hibs, who kept a clean sheet against Livingston last time out, but they haven't kept back-to-back shutouts in the league since October. They will be tested, that feels almost for sure, by this Celtic team who've been scoring goals for fun this season. Roddy mentioned the goal difference and it being, you know, at least another points advantage to them. 18 games played, Celtic's goal difference plus 42 before tonight. That's how dominant they've been. By contrast, Hibs have a negative goal difference for the season.
And you just have to look at the squad to see why. You know, you think even tonight Haksabanovic is not even in the squad. You know, Georgios Giacomakis, James Forrest on the bench as well. So they've got an array of talent. Even when it's not going well or they're struggling in games, he just rolls the dice. Ange Postecoglou brings on the big hitters and the super subs.
Yeah, no David Turnbull tonight, sent off against St Johnstone. Anthony Ralston picked up an injury against Livingston. Here is Starfelt, who's had his injury problems this season. Rolling it to his right-hand side to Cameron Carter-Vickers, who scored against Hibs here at Easter Road last season. That was a game that Celtic won by 3-1. October of last year, when Cameron Carter-Vickers was still on loan. He hasn't scored for Celtic since making the move permanent. Now here's a chance of a break for Hibs. Johan leaves the ball behind him. Recovers it on the halfway line, and some very fancy footwork to Stevenson. Just dragged it back for himself and flicked a back heel. Hibs are inside Celtic territory. Ryan Porteous goes for an ambitious ball down the right-hand side. Brilliantly played. Cadden, though, oh, he was beaten by the bounce. He got his own legs in a tangle. What a great pass that was, and Cadden couldn't take advantage of it. Johan tries a shot from distance. It ricochets up in the air, and Joe Hart makes a comfortable save. But when Hibs have come forward on the counter-attack, Stephen Craigan, they have looked dangerous.
Got to say, what a pass it was from Ryan Porteous. You know, already that's Dyson Maeda, who's had to track back down the left-hand side of Celtic. He doesn't really want to do it. Leila Bada's been cut out a couple of times, so real emphasis on Chris Cadden, the right full-back of Hibs, and Lewis Stevenson, the left full-back, to try and take them there. But once he's in, I thought he should have had a shot. He was trying to square it for Kevin Nisbet, but there's certainly enough encouragement in the opening 15 minutes for Hibs to think there could be something for them here tonight.
Yeah, that was my thought too. He was clearly tried to cross it, and you just want, as he flicked his leg, was he at the last minute thinking, I should have gone for a shot here, and there was that sort of caught in two minds about it. Celtic relieved, quarter of an hour played, it remains 0-0 for now. Melker Hallberg, the St Johnstone player, has been taken off against Hearts. They're 1-0 down. They've now lost Holbrook has been an important player for them over the last year or so. This is McGregor in the midfield for Celtic, gives it to the right hand side to Matt O'Reilly. Celtic like to dominate possession in games, and they're just slowing it down to their pace now as Starfelt has it inside the centre circle. Short to Cameron Carter-Vickers, who'll turn 25 on New Year's Eve. He tried to play an ambitious ball down the right hand side to Abada. The little corridor he was trying to play into was too narrow, and Hibs are able to clear away. Nisbet, what's he doing there? He felt there was no route forward. He's flicked it back and given it straight to Maeda for Celtic. Curious choice from Kevin Nisbet there. This is Aaron Moy, the shaven-headed Australian. Low pass to Cameron Carter-Vickers. All of Celtic's players, including the defenders, are up inside the Hibs half now. Ball played towards the edge of the area. Kyogo tried to swivel and control it in one motion, wasn't able to. He ran into Joe Newell, and he's been deemed to have fouled him. Free kick to Hibs on the edge of their own penalty area. Stephen Craigan.
Yeah, it comes from that loose pass from Kevin Nisbet in and around the halfway line, trying to flick the ball back to Chris Cadden deep in his own half. I think if you're under pressure and you don't have an option, put it deep into the opposition's half and allow your team to get up the pitch. But Hibs will be pleased. 15-16 minutes in, they haven't conceded a goal. They've showed they can carry a threat. It's maybe just trying to get Yuan in possession of the ball a little bit more. He looks like he could be the one player tonight to unlock this Celtic back line.
Yeah, the front two in Scotland are way ahead of everyone else, but then there's a very close bunch. Aberdeen, Hearts, St Johnstone, St Mirren, Hibs, Livingston, they're all just within 2 points of each other. So certainly much to play for in this second half of the season. And Hibs, who start tonight a point outside the top six. Let's go back to Elland Road and check on developments in the Premier League. Manchester City against Leeds. Lee Blakeman.
Leeds 0, Manchester City 0. Leeds have been struggling to get out of their own half. It's been all City who've just gone close again. De Bruyne's cross into the area. Gundogan trying to make it with his head on the stretch. Just couldn't quite get there. Steve Stone.
Well, Leeds have got a good shape about them. They're backed off normally to the halfway line, and then once they actually do turn the ball over, they'll then try and release men forward to counter-attack. Again, that leaves spaces again for Man City to counter their counter-attack, so that's when we're finding them spaces. But Leeds getting back in the shape, working a 4-3-3 there, no gaps through the middle, trying to force Manchester City round the outside. Manchester City probing away. They'll be patient in what they do, as they always do.
It feels like when, not if, City score at the moment, though. Leeds 0, Manchester City 0.
And a chance for Hibs here. Josh Campbell with a shot that had to be saved by Joe Hart, stretching out to his left-hand side. Did he get a touch? But it certainly brought a big ooh from the Hibs crowd. And Hibs are doing okay here in the early stages. 18 minutes played, Hibs 0, Celtic 0.
And it came from a Celtic throw-in deep in their own half. Rio Hatate tried to throw it into the middle of the pitch, and Josh Campbell intercepted, fired it off with his left foot. Hibs once again going close.
Josh Campbell, who's got 5 goals this season. Here comes Nisbet, rolls it to the feet of Eli Yuan, who took his eye off it and couldn't control. Groans from the Hibs fans. Celtic should be able to clear away here. Hatate at right back. That's not a good clearance. He's given it straight to Lewis Stevenson. Hibs don't hold on to possession though. Then there's a challenge on Matt O'Reilly. High turnover of the ball. Eventually the whistle is blown, and it's going to be a free kick to Celtic just outside their own penalty area. But Hibs doing their best to get in the faces of their opponents in this first quarter of the match.
And that's what you have to do. Listen, it's tough mentally and physically. It's tough to do it for 90 minutes, but they've done it so far in the opening part. And Rio Hatate just looks a little bit uncomfortable for me. Defensively, playing as a right back against St Johnstone at the weekend, had nothing really to play against. He had loads of time and swarmed forward, and it was probably too easy. Maybe lulled Celtic into a false sense of security. But tonight, he certainly had a few questions posed to him.
As the ball goes out of play on the far side from us, and that will be a throw-in to Celtic. Celtic, who had 4 players in action at the World Cup in Qatar. Carter-Vickers with the USA, Juranovic with Croatia, Maeda with Japan, and Moy with Australia. And they all made it through to the group stages and into the knockout rounds, which is further evidence of the quality that Ange Postecoglou has at this club. Joe Hart, who's been at World Cups in the past, rolls it out wearing all yellow to the feet of Kyle Starfelt, who'll bring it up towards the halfway line. Rolls it to his right-hand side, and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Celtic move into Hibs territory. Hibs bring all 11 men back behind the ball. This is Conor McGregor. Rolls it to the right-hand side to Abada, who's sort of been sharing those right-back duties with Rio Hatate. It's almost a hybrid role between the two of them. Hatate makes inverted runs inside of the Israeli, and Abada drops a bit deeper when that happens. Left-hand side, Maeda gives it into Aaron Moy. Moy, who's such a graceful player to watch, always got the head up, always scanning the horizon to see what passes are on offer. Vickers here gives it low to the edge of the penalty area. Hatate lost his feet, jumps back up again, keeps things moving on to Taylor. Taylor into the penalty area, made it just on the left edge, makes a burst towards the byline, drags it back, caught by Chris Cadden, and that is a corner to Celtic on the left-hand side. We've got 20 minutes played, 0-0 on 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
Good defending, good patience from Hibs as well. Celtic are moving the ball, looking for someone to drop a runner, looking for someone to switch off, and Chris Cadden blocks the cross.
Here comes the ball in, all sorts of pushing in there, referee spotted it, and I think it was Cameron Carter-Vickers who was doing most of it. He's a big burly player, he's broad-chested, and he had defenders bouncing off him there. Referee spotted it, and that is a free kick to David Marshall away to our left-hand side. Marshall, who joined Hibs this past summer, 15 years since he last played in Scotland. Fine career that he has had, David Marshall, and wearing all bright pink tonight, he prepares to launch this back down into the Celtic end of the field. Just too high for Kevin Nisbet. Kyogo controls nicely. O'Reilly back to Rio Hatate. Celtic still waiting for a break in the deadlock. They've had one brilliant opportunity, Maeda's diving header, but apart from that, they've not really got in behind this Hibs central defence so far.
I just think sometimes with the slow build-up play, it's allowing Hibs to get back behind the ball, isn't it, and congest the middle of the pitch.
Hibs' form overall has not been great lately. Abada's cross on the right-hand side is hooked away by Paul Hanlon. Hibs just hoping that win against Livingston last time out can inspire them on to better things, but you look back over the last 9 games, they've had the worst form of any Premiership team. 2 wins, 7 defeats over those 9 matches. It's been poor from Hibs. Maeda tries to get in on the back of Cadden. Oh, he's done really well. Hooks it across. Abada was there, but the defender got there just first. That was a lightning fast attack again from Celtic. That's a bit more like the pace you were talking about, Stephen, that they need to inspire in this game.
Yeah, Dyson Maeda just went towards the ball. Chris Cadden got caught going with him, and then he's that little change of pace. Spun in behind him, Chris Cadden. Can't allow the ball up his inside shoulder. Good flick in by Dyson Maeda. I thought Leila Abada was then going to get on it at the back post, but good defending Rocky Bashiri.
Celtic have it. Still on the attack. Hatate on the right-hand side goes around Yohan, and ball trickles out of play at the byline, but it took a touch off the French winger, and that's going to be a corner to Celtic. Corner on the right-hand side. Aaron Moy trots across to take it. Midway through the first half now. Celtic committing a lot of players forward. Hibs bringing everyone back. It's very high from Moy. Cameron Carter-Vickers wins it. Maeda, side-footed attempt. He appeals it. Came off the hand of a defender. VAR will have a look at that in the background, but Hibs got it away. It ended up being a pretty much free header for Cameron Carter-Vickers. And when it fell to Maeda, he tried to just nudge it goal-bound, but too many defenders in the way. Throw into Celtic, far side of the pitch from us. No delay for the VAR, so they're obviously happy there was no suggestion of handball.
He should score, shouldn't he, Maeda? Cameron Carter-Vickers once again. He may not be the tallest, but really good in the air. Got good spring. Knocks it back into the path of Maeda, catches with his right foot, opens his body up too much, so another chance goes a begging.
0-0. These are the final games in the Scottish Premiership of the year 2022. What a year it's been for Celtic. They have dominated proceedings of the top flight. Well, Celtic have been held 0-0 here. News of another goal at Ibrox. Gavin Rollis.
Indeed, Connor, and Celtic will need to score quick if they want to get something tonight. Rangers have went 2 up now. A great corner in from Borna Barisic on that right hand side, and Connor Goldson from 8 yards was never going to miss his header just off the underside of the bar. Rangers 2, Motherwell 0.
Thanks very much, Gavin. So Michael Beale continues to create good waves in his new job. Former assistant of Stephen Gerrard, as Kyogo tries a little flick. It was across from Maeda to the left hand side. He ran over it and tried to flick it with his foot that was furthest from the goal. He did get it on target, but no pace to trouble David Marshall.
Yeah, he's probably been their best outlet tonight, Dyson Maeda. He's the one that's had a couple of opportunities. He really is so quick. You know, if Chris Cadden doesn't match his run early on, he gets in behind him. Kyogo tried the little Croy flick at the near post. Rocky Bashiri had done enough just to usher him into that area of the pitch, but Celtic always pushing and probing.
Hibs have possession, right hand side of the midfield with Kyle McGuinness. Neat triangular passing will allow Joe Newell here to attack level with the edge of the penalty area down the right hand side, but Aaron Moy is back helping out the defence. He makes the tackle and Celtic through Greg Taylor are able to clear away. They don't hold on to it. Hibs regain possession again. Lewis Stevenson, who was Hibs player of the year last season, gives it to Johan, back to Stevenson again on the halfway line. Hibs playing left to right as we look down, the green shirts with the white sleeves, Celtic in black. Moy wins it again in the midfield, and now Matt O'Reilly inside Hibs territory will play it back into the centre to Aaron Moy again. McGuinness working hard to get back goal side as Taylor comes to join the attack for Celtic. Maeda on the left hand side, Taylor the decoy runner outside him. It's back short to Aaron Moy once again. McGregor gives it back to the Australian. Several Celtic players waiting patiently in the penalty area for a cross to come. McGregor plays it in, deflected off a defender, came behind O'Reilly, he couldn't control. It's a very poor clearance though, straight to Starfelt, and he picks out a bad inside the penalty area, and Stevenson did well to regain possession, and Hibs are able to clear away. And this pressure, the temperature being turned up by Celtic all the time.
Yeah, it is. That's a couple of times Kevin Nisbet, he's got to get hold of the ball. You know, he's got to anticipate the ball's going to be cleared from his defenders. He's got to be in front of Carl Starfelt. He isn't, and Celtic just recycle it and move it on again. Lewis Stevenson, he actually slipped in the box. I thought he was going to put his hand out and block it. It must have hit him on the head, but yeah, Celtic have all the pressure.
0-0 here. Hearts leading 2-0 at St Johnstone. Rangers leading 2-0 at home to Motherwell. 0-0 between Livingston and St Mirren. Kilmarnock won, Aberdeen 0, and Dundee United still 1-up against Ross County. That battle between the two teams in the bottom two places of the Scottish Premiership table. Maeda's cross from the left. Aaron Moy's got to score here. Right-footed, puts his laces through it and finds the back of the net. And the Australian, back from his World Cup exploits, celebrates, giving Celtic the lead. They will have heard of the news coming through from Ibrox of Rangers leading 2-0. But this 9-point lead can remain intact tonight if Celtic get the business done here at Easter Road. And Aaron Moy, his first goal for Celtic, and he wasn't going to miss from there. It was laid on a plate for him, really. Hibs 0, Celtic 1.
And it's no surprise it comes down the left-hand side for Celtic. Dyson Maeda has been a real bright spark for Celtic in the opening 25 minutes or 27 minutes. Once again, he squares Chris Cadden up, and I know Chris Cadden, he's quick, he's got a good change of pace, but simply not quick enough to keep up with Dyson Maeda. Once the ball comes into the box and it deflects into the path of Moy, 7 or 8 yards out, just puts his laces through it. It has been coming, they've been pushing and probing and trying to get that breakthrough. This is where Hibs now have got to press the reset button. They've got to put it to the back of their minds. They can't afford to concede a quick second.
Yeah, the Hibs resistance lasted 28 minutes. Aaron Moy scored the goal. Once on Manchester City's books, he's been in China, he's played for Huddersfield and for Brighton, and when the cross ricocheted up in the air, it came down just perfectly for him. And it was one of those, he could pick his spot, he could decide, where am I going to plant this? And he just shoved it in behind David Marshall, and not much the goalkeeper could do about that. Hibs 0, Celtic 1. How are Hibs going to respond to this? Joe Newell tries to send it down the left-hand side looking for Johan. It's been cut out by Hatate, and that goes out for a throw-in to Hibs. Bashiri, heart of the defence. Ryan Porteous under pressure from Maeda, and all this is going to do is give extra belief, extra energy into these Celtic legs. Now they've got their noses in front. So Aaron Moy, as you mentioned, once a Manchester City player. How's his former club faring at Elland Road tonight? It's the 8 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League. Lee Blakeman.
Leeds 0, Manchester City 0. It's gone a little bit flat, Connor, the last 5 or 6 here. City have had a chance though. Gundogan, daisy cutter, 30 yards just wide of the bottom corner. Jack Grealish has thrown a temper tantrum, and rightfully so. He's just been poleaxed by Pascal Strout, and referee Stuart Atwell didn't even give him a free kick. Not happy at all, but with half an hour played, it's Leeds 0, Manchester City 0 still.
Thanks very much, Lee. Newcastle United went above Manchester City up to second in the table on Boxing Day with their win against Leicester at the King Power Stadium. City draw tonight would move them back ahead of Newcastle, but it just shows, for all the depth of squad, there is competition now for those places up at the top of the table. And as good as Manchester City are, Arsenal have been better so far this season, and there are others who want to get up in the conversation too. We'll be back in touch with Lee and Steve Stone at Elland Road for any developments there. Half an hour played exactly at Easter Road. 1-0 Celtic leading away at Hibs. Taylor wins the ball well off Cadden. It just feels all of a sudden like all the Celtic players have grown a few inches taller. That goal giving them an air of not quite invincibility, certainly superiority. Moy, the goal scorer, rolls it back to Starfelt. Celtic fans enjoying it. They've taken over both tiers. Away to our right-hand side, singing their songs loudly in the Edinburgh night air. Ink black skies overhead. Rain has eased off a bit. As Abada tried to skim his way beyond Lewis Stevenson, but ran out of pitch. And it goes out for a throw into Hibs, left full-back position for them. Stephen Craigan.
They're just so good with the ball, Celtic. You know, they can take a sting out of the game when they want to go forward and try and pierce the opposition or prise them open. Yeah, they can do that, but they're quite happy to move the ball around the back, wait for the gaps to appear, wait for a Hibs player to switch off or be a little bit lazy or drop a runner, and then they look to go and move the ball. And as always, Callum McGregor right at the heart of it.
Cameron Carter-Vickers under a bit of pressure, so he relieves that by playing it to Hatate all the way back to Joe Hart, the goalkeeper. Hart, who started every league game this season. He gives it out to Starfelt, and Celtic move back into Hibs territory. Maeda, the Japanese international, on the left-hand side. Colin McGuinness trying to keep back goal side of him. Aaron Moy back to Starfelt with the long sleeves and the gloves tonight. Moy looks up and spots a bit of room for a bat on the far side. That's a really good ball played towards the Israeli, but his first touch is a little heavy. I mean, it was difficult to pull it down. It had travelled over 50 yards to get to him. Stevenson able to nip in and regain possession for Hibs. They have it at the back. Paul Hanlon to Bashiri at his right-hand side. And Bashiri under pressure from Matt O'Reilly goes back to David Marshall. Still Hibs 0. Celtic 1 here. Back to Elland Road. Leeds Manchester City. Lee.
Leeds 0, Manchester City 0. We've just seen the best chance of the game though go City's way. De Bruyne through ball, Haaland on the end of it into the area, decent shot, well blocked by Meslier in the Leeds goal. City with a corner which is going to be swung in by Gundogan towards the near post, headed away only as far as the edge of the area. Lewis puts it back in. Good spell this for City, just goes behind. Steve Stone.
As soon as the ball turns over and they get in between the lines there, Haaland's off down the sides. Great little run from, but a fantastic save. The goalkeeper's keeping them in the minute.
City take another corner short. Gundogan will swing it in and it's going to be headed away. Still Leeds 0, Manchester City 0.
As for much to Lee and Steve, it's a very Merry Christmas for the Celtic fans here. They are singing Christmas songs away to our right-hand side. They believe that this lead, which is 9 points, if it can be that way going into the Old Firm derby, they can be on the home straight moving into the second half of the campaign. Michael Beale coming in, just hoping maybe Celtic might have dropped a point or two before that game, and that gap could have been a little bit more tantalising. But the Celtic fans will be very pleased to keep as much distance between them and Rangers as they can. Long way to go, of course, in this game. We've an hour to go, but Celtic in front and looking good. Bashiri comes out of defence for Hibs. They'll come down the right-hand side with Chris Cadden. He's a little bit unfortunate there. He's running and it sort of came between his own legs. It wouldn't roll into his stride, and it goes out for a throw into Celtic. Left full-back position for them. This has been an 8 o'clock kick-off. They were 15 minutes ahead of us in the other games up and down Scotland, and that means at Ibrox they've reached half-time. Gavin Wallace.
Rangers 2, Motherwell 0. Borna Barisic with the architect's pencil firmly in his hand as he crafted both goals. The first at the 13th minute, Stephen O'Donnell allowed far too much room on the left-hand side, and guess who was on the end of the header? It was Alfredo Morelos for his 5th of the season, and the second as the blueprint was whipped open again. Barisic with a corner in on the 34th minute, and it was Connor Goldson that leapt above everyone else to make it Rangers 2, Motherwell 0.
Celtic have hit the crossbar. Maeda, another diving header for the Japanese player, and it bounces off the crossbar and back into the arms of the goalkeeper David Marshall. And Stephen Craigan so close to Celtic doubling their lead.
He's had such an interesting first half, hasn't he? Dyson Maeda could easily have had a couple of goals, had an assist for the goal that actually arrived, and I think that's probably the best one of the two headers. He really should score from that distance as well. The crossbar keeps Hibs alive in the game, but you can just see when they're moving the ball and they're rotating around about, Hibs are struggling to keep pace with them. Celtic have the game exactly where they want it. They want to draw Hibs out, they want to draw them forward and then pierce those spaces they leave.
Celtic dominant at the moment. They're reaching half-time in all of the other games now. The only one that's scoreless is Livingston against St Mirren. Goals in all the others. It is now half-time at Dundee United, and they lead Ross County by 1-0. Stephen Fletcher started up front for Dundee United tonight. Here's Maeda into a shooting position, right-footed to the back of the net. That's glorious. He has blasted it in from outside the penalty area, left-hand side, across the face of the goalkeeper, into the side netting on the far side. It is a thump finish. There's no swerve on that. It was true as a die to the back of the net. It does double Celtic's lead. 10 minutes ahead of half-time, and Hibs are in trouble now.
They certainly are. It's a piece of brilliance from Maeda. He actually slipped initially when he picked the ball up, and then Chris Cadden, who was going to try and tackle him, he slipped as well. So he managed to steal a march on this left-hand side. He just drifted in the pitch. The thing about Maeda, he can go on his left foot, he can go on his right foot. It's hard to show him one way, but he just took it in his right foot. It's a wonderful strike beyond David Marshall. He's at full stretch his left-hand side, trying to make a save, but too much pace, too much accuracy on it, and it looks a long way back already for Hibs.
Maeda, who scored against Croatia at the World Cup at the last 16 stage earlier on this month. That's his 5th goal of the season for Celtic, his 4th in the league. He scored against Hibs the last time these sides met too, in October. It was just an unstoppable shot. He's outside the penalty area, but if there had been 2 goalkeepers in there, they'd have struggled to keep that out. Just a blasted finish. Very good goal to give Celtic a 2-0 advantage. Hibs come down the other end. Long throw in into the penalty area. Bashiri ended up down on his knees. Taylor comes away with possession for Celtic up towards Kyoko Furuhashi. He won't keep it in play. Ball goes out in front of the dugouts, and much to the anger of Hibs fans, it's going to be a throw-in to Celtic.
Yeah, I have to say that, Maeda hasn't always been a fan's favourite at Celtic. There's times people have criticised the manager for starting him, thought he was out of form, but tonight he's been absolutely scintillating. I have to say, I thought he was really impressive in the World Cup. Got lots of plaudits from everybody. The challenge is always to try and bring that World Cup form back to Celtic, and he certainly has tonight.
Here they come again. It's Tate to Maeda, attacking the penalty area right-hand side. His cross is deflected out for a corner once again, and the pressure at the moment is unrelenting. Hibs have had to work so hard, dragging bodies back into defensive position, trying to remain alert all evening, and Celtic, after a rather pedestrian start, have just moved their way through the gears. The tempo is increased, and Hibs haven't been able to keep up with them. Moyes' corner from the right-hand side, an outswinger that's too high for Carter Vickers. Hibs had everyone back inside the penalty area, so Taylor's got lots of room midway inside the Hibs half. This is back to the captain, McGregor, inside the centre circle, and he rolls it over to the right. Aaron Moy still out there, having taken the corner on that side. Johan comes across to challenge him, and that's going to be a Celtic throw midway inside Hibs territory. 38 minutes on the clock. Hibs of Edinburgh 0, Celtic of Glasgow 2.
And they don't lose their composure, do they? Even when they're under pressure, there's chances going against them. Connor, they always remain calm, they always remain composed, they never get away from what they're trying to do, trying to circulate the ball, trying to invert their full-backs, trying to overload the middle of the pitch, and of course then use Maeda on the right and Maeda on the left.
What do you put that down to, Stephen? As Maeda attacks down the right-hand side, pulls it back for O'Reilly, 2 defenders around him. He's done well to smuggle it back to McGregor, now to the left-hand side of the penalty area, and Maeda onto that right boot again. Moyes' touch was clever, but too close to the defender, and Hibs get it out for a corner. That sort of patience, that belief, you say, do you put that down to Postecoglou?
Yeah, it's obviously repetitive training. That's what they must do, continually doing the same thing, trying to be better at it. They don't have a plan B, they have plan A, and they continually try and improve time on time. Plus they've got good players, the players who can handle the ball in the final third, players who are very good in 1v1 situations, and tonight we've witnessed that with Maeda and with Maeda.
Yeah, the corners rolled short. You can tell that Celtic players, they trust their teammates, they give each other the ball. Even in a tight corner, they know that they'll be able to find a clean pass out, as Aaron Moy has it 10 yards outside the Hibs penalty area here, rolls it to the left to Maeda. Succession of step overs from him, but good defending by McGuinness, who ignored all the swirling feet and kept his eye on the ball and regained it for Hibs, who are really penned in here. Johan's back heel was inventive to try and work his way out. He's done very well actually from a closed in corner, but they can't work it up to the halfway line. Hibs, and a back heel from Maeda to McGregor, and now O'Reilly picks out some space for Hatate on the right hand side. Celtic looking to make it 3 ahead of the break. They were 3-0 up after 24 minutes when these teams last met Celtic. That was back in October in Glasgow. McGregor plays a 1-2 with Matt O'Reilly. That's a lovely ball for Hatate into the penalty area, across the face of goal, and there's no one there to finish it off. The Celtic really here queuing up to make it 3.
Yeah, they are indeed. Once again, that's a Hibs fullback allowing the ball up his inside shoulder. Rio Hatate early in the game. Struggled defensively, but certainly in an attacking sense, he's always willing to get forward. Probably wasn't enough players in the box, was there? He was looking to pick out a body. But they're so quick, they're so slick in what they do, Celtic. It's a real big 5 minutes for Hibs, because they know a third goal before half-time, the game is gone, there's no way back into it, so they've got to make sure they don't concede.
Celtic fans singing of not being moved. They are set, as things stand, to move up to 54 points tonight, to extend this winning run to 12 straight in the league. 2-0 in front, away at Hibs tonight. Moy and Maeda, the Australian and the Japanese international, with the goals. Hibs of possession, and Eli Johan's probably looked their brightest spark tonight. He's just turned the full-back again on the left-hand side, but couldn't deliver the cross. And a frustrated Kevin Nisbet in the centre says, come on, you've got to give me a chance, as Celtic clear the ball away.
Yeah, he's definitely been the most productive, hasn't he? Johan, see, he's got ability, wants to be 1v1. He knows Hatati's not a natural right-back. So if they can keep it to 2-0 at half-time, Lee Johnson will be saying, get the ball as much as you can down to the Hibs left.
And the weather's come in swirling. Celtic fans singing in the rain down there as the long throw in nearly reaches Hanlon. Did that come back off the post? Paul Hanlon, who scored the opening goal against Celtic in the League Cup final this month last year. He's very nearly reduced the deficit there. Hart reacted, but it seemed to thud off the woodwork before Celtic got it away.
Yeah, a huge chance for Hibs. Can they get a goal before half-time?
Another long throw in from the left-hand side, and this one does pop into the arms of Joe Hart, and Celtic relax once more. Just a little reminder from Hibs that this isn't over yet. Paul Hanlon is yet to score this season for Hibs. McGregor on the left-hand, Taylor on the left-hand side for Celtic gives it into the midfield to Kyoko Furuhashi. Now McGregor. Real zip to the passes on a wet night from Celtic as the ball eventually goes out of play. Throw in for Hibs, right full-back position, and for Chris Cadden, who, you think back earlier on in the game at 0-0, he had an opportunity when he broke into the penalty area and he tried to cross it instead of shoot, and then he was the player who had the ball in the back of the net, only for it to be ruled for offside. It could have been a different evening this for Hibs, and for Chris Cadden, the right back. Here's McGuinness. He's done well, helping it on to Campbell. Now a ball down the right wing, which Cadden is sprinting after it. He's unlucky that the ball beats him to the touchline. The ball goes out of play for a throw-in to Celtic.
Yeah, I think it's a poor choice from Ryan Porteous. Johan again on that left-hand side. He's free if he can just switch the ball over. But, you know, you're spot on about Hibs having opportunities, because so often you watch teams playing against Celtic, they spend so much time defending, they don't actually get up towards Joe Hart's goal. That if a goal ruled out, Chris Cadden had another chance to hit the post. So, but the trade-off is, if you overcommit, Celtic can pick you off.
Yeah, Celtic taking their time over the throw, which is much to the chagrin of Hibs fans. Kyoko's flicked on header was intended for Maeda, but it goes straight out of play for a throw-in to Hibs. Hibs 0, Celtic 2. Difficult sequence of results, which have been spurred up by the victory last time out for Hibs, but at the moment they're looking at another defeat as it stands. 90 seconds of normal time to go until the break. Could they get one back before half-time? Eli Johan into a position on his right boot. For a moment it looked like he was going to shoot there. Thought the better of it, had support from Cadden. Now the cross, right-footed into the penalty area. Rising was Porteous, but he couldn't get high enough, and the whistle was blown anyway. It's going to be a free kick to Celtic, and Hibs is certainly giving this a go, but not troubling Joe Hart, and that attempt off the woodwork from Hanlon is the closest they've come.
Yeah, it's just that little bit of quality in the final third, isn't it? You know, we spoke already about the quality Celtic have, not just on the pitch, but also off the bench. It's just a little bit of composure, picking that right pass. The final thing you do with the ball is the most important one in football, and that's something that Lee Johnson will be asking his players to be better at in the second half.
Celtic have already got some transfer business lined up for when the January window opens. The Canadian international Alistair Johnson will be joining, Japanese player Yuki Kobayashi too. They'll all be arriving in the next few days. Ange Postecoglou looks to keep up the very high standards. Celtic have been so good in 2022, and he wants that to continue into 2023. Aaron Moy feels a bit of pressure from Ryan Porteous, so he goes back to Joe Hart. Now Cameron Carter-Vickers rolls it to Starfeld as the fourth official raises his board, and just the solitary minute to be added on for stoppages ahead of the break. We'll be back with Sarah Mulkerrins in the studio over half-time. Those other games up and down the Scottish Premiership will be just getting back underway shortly for the second period. This is the 8 o'clock kickoff tonight. Celtic 2-0 at front. Nisbet's ball in field is good. Campbell, 10 yards outside the penalty area, helps it on to Johan. Nisbet's made his way into the centre, so too McGuinness. Can Johan deliver? No, he can't. He's held up by Hatate. Good work from the Japanese midfielder playing right back, but not good work by Matt O'Reilly, who's given it away again on the edge of his own penalty area. Hibs unable to capitalise, however, as Cameron Carter-Vickers blasted away into the crowd.
Yeah, I've got to say, excellent defending this time by Reo Hatate. He's had a tough opening spell, but he's done really well, stuck to his task. But just when you look at Johan on that left-hand side, he's looking to cross the ball into the box. There's no Hibs jerseys, there's no Hibs players busting the gut to get in there. They need to fill the box.
There's the whistle for the break, and the big cheers are coming from the Celtic fans, dancing in the aisles away to our right-hand side. It's been very straightforward for the league leaders. Moy with the opener, Maeda with the second. Goals in pretty quick succession, which have left Hibs stunned here. There's been no shortage of endeavour from Lee Johnson's side, but this is a very steep hill to climb up now, and Celtic in this sort of mood look like they could do more damage in the second period. For now, at half-time at Easter Road, it's Hibs 0, Celtic 2.
Stephen, Connor's talking about it there, in control, and just watching Celtic once they had the 2-goal lead, they're almost like a puppeteer pulling the strings, just controlling the play, so almost effortlessly for Hibs to try and get any sort of chance. I'm just going to jump right in because we do have one other game underway right now. Lee Blakeman is watching Manchester City against Leeds United. Lee, there has been a goal.
It's Leeds 0, Manchester City 1 in first half stoppage time. Mahrez into the area right side, brilliant save by Meslier, and then following in was Rodri, easy finish, and Steve Stone, you have to say, the lead deserved. Leeds 0, Manchester City 1.
Yeah, it's been absolutely coming. Kevin De Bruyne has been at the heart of every single chance that Manchester City have had, and it was definitely coming. Once the ball broke, they were flooding forward. Well deserved.
Great shot initially by Mahrez, super save, it has to be said, just watching it back from Meslier, but really sharp from Rodri to follow in. Half-time whistle about to go. Leeds 0, Manchester City 1.
Great stuff, Lee. We will be back with yourself and Steve very shortly, but back to Easter Road. Stephen Craigan has been watching Celtic in control, Stephen, against Hibs.
Yeah, they are. And Hibs started ever so well. I'd said that, they want to come out of the traps. They want to try and get an early goal and try and give themselves a boost and lift Easter Road. And Celtic just ride out the storm. Hibs certainly had a couple of chances. They didn't manage to take them. But once Celtic get that first goal, you can just see the body language changing. They move the ball a little bit quicker. Connor said it during commentary. Every single player wants the ball. Hibs are then caught in between. Do they step on? Do they drop off? And that's when Celtic can go and capitalise. And then, listen, the second goal was a piece of brilliance. It really was from Dyson Maeda, who's been Celtic's best player, no doubt about it. He's hit the crossbar. He should have scored with a diving header. He scored a wonderful individual goal as well. So it looks a long way back now from Hibs. However, if they can get the next goal in the game, take it back to 2-1, then they can grow in belief. But they've done so many good things in the first half, but when you come up against a top quality Celtic side, eventually they have the quality and they have the patience where they can break you down.
Yeah, Roddy Forsyth also watching the action at Easter Road. What can Hibs do then to get back into it, Roddy?
Well, the interesting thing for me was the first 5 minutes was a classic Celtic opening. 3 corner kicks, the ball in the net, and the opposing defence under extreme pressure. The thing was, it wasn't Celtic who were applying it. That was Hibs who started that way. And if Hibs had managed to get that goal instead of having it disallowed, then you certainly fancy that they might have been able to do something in this game. They were certainly catching Hatate out on the far side. He was repeatedly caught, and once or twice giving the ball away without great pressure on him. But in the end, Celtic like to pour players with one-touch ability right onto the edge of the penalty area. They overload you, and that's exactly what happened. And if you get the chance to see the Maeda goal again, he actually, after an initial slip, he dummies McGuinness and Porteous. He has a little feint to the left. They both go that way. He cuts inside. The space is wide open. He shoots. And that's the sort of class that you can't legislate for.
Roddy, Stephen, Connor, thank you so much for the moment. We will be back with you all for a second half commentary of Hibs against Celtic at Easter Road. Celtic leading 2-0 at the break. It's a full slate of fixtures in the Scottish Premiership this evening. The other games just getting underway in the second half. Let me bring you right up to date with the latest scores there. Big game at the bottom of the table. Dundee United are a goal up against Ross County, so that means that Dundee jump ahead of Ross County, so they're off the foot of the table as things stand. Kilmarnock, they are beating Aberdeen 2-0, so that's interesting because Hearts are also beating St Johnstone 2-0, so Hearts now have jumped ahead of Aberdeen, so Hearts are up to third as it stands with that scoreline. Rangers, as we've been hearing, lead Motherwell 2-0, and it is goalless still between Livingston and St Mirren. I'll update you on any scores over half-time in our commentary game, but let's get to Elland Road and reflect a little bit more on that first half between Leeds United and Manchester City. We heard there the goal coming right at the end of the first half for Manchester City, Lee Blakeman. I mean, I've run out of paper trying to write down the amount of chances that Manchester City had. I'm sure I missed stuff when I was watching the Celtic game as well. They were so in control.
Do you know what? We have also just been saying exactly the same thing. Me and Steve Stone have run out of space on our paper with City chances. Just the one for Leeds. Rodri's goal separating the teams. First half stoppage time. Leeds 0, Manchester City 1. Mahrez shot, saved by Meslier. Rodri following up for a tap-in. City frustrated before that. Meslier has been superb in the Leeds goal. Twice denying Erling Haaland. The first save coming inside 40 seconds. Gundogan denied by the keeper from close range too. Jack Grealish has skied a couple. One was an absolute sitter, and Leeds have had just one shot on goal in the whole half from Nonto. So on that basis, Steve Stone, you have to say City more than deserving of that 1-0 lead.
Yeah, they've been excellent throughout, haven't they? We talked about Leeds before the game, how they would come out and they would try and put some pressure on Manchester City, but they really haven't done that at all. They've just sat back, they've got a really good shape, they've tried to force the ball wide, but as the game's gone on, Man City have got real control. They've got in between the lines, and then when they're blocked in between the lines, they've pushed it out wide, then they found the space down the outside of the centre-halves, and whichever way Leeds tried to set up or whichever way they tried to block them, Man City and Pep find a way of getting through them. But every chance that you ever look at Manchester City are creating, Kevin De Bruyne to Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne to Mahrez, Kevin De Bruyne, it's the Kevin De Bruyne show, I'm telling you. He has been absolutely outstanding in this first half.
And City with such a strong bench as well. Leeds will not like the sight of Walker, Phillips, Cancelo, Laporte, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden. They're all on there. All could come on during the second half at the end of an entertaining first, though. Leeds 0, Manchester City 1.
Lee Blakeman and Steve Stone at Elland Road. Thank you. Updates from the guys to come from the second half. But now on 5 Live Sport as it approaches 5 minutes to 9 o'clock this Wednesday night. Let's get the latest BBC News with Stuart Clarkson.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Sarah, thank you. Good evening. Police on Merseyside have renewed their appeal for information about the fatal shooting of 26-year-old Ellie Edwards. She was killed on Christmas Eve at the Lighthouse Inn in Wallasey Village. Here's Deputy Chief Constable Ian Critchley.
We will not rest until we bring the offenders to justice. And by that I mean the person who pulled the trigger of the gun in the most indiscriminate way. Anybody who was responsible for arranging, facilitating or harbouring this individual, and anybody who continues to withhold information on who has done this.
Officers are still holding a man and a woman in connection with the murder. 2 men are being questioned meanwhile on suspicion of murder after a man was stabbed to death on the dance floor of a nightclub in Birmingham. Cody Fisher was attacked on Boxing Day at the Crane venue in Digbeth. The US has announced tonight all air passengers arriving into the country from China will have to have a negative COVID test from next week. Officials say the recent rise in coronavirus cases in China increases the potential for new variants emerging. Kherson in southern Ukraine has been hit by a wave of Russian missiles in the last 24 hours. Moscow's forces had occupied the city but were forced to withdraw from it last month. People have been trying to flee. Elena and her 3 daughters are among them.
We're leaving because we are scared to stay in the city. It's petrifying here. They are bombing, children are scared. It's horrible. They are shelling us all the time. Before they shelled us 7-10 times a day, but now it's 70-80 times.
The Met Office says 2022 is on course to be the hottest year ever recorded in the UK. Data shows that every month except December has been warmer than normal. And for the first time since 1987, the UK has spent more money on vinyl than CDs. Artists including Taylor Swift and Harry Styles are among those credited with boosting vinyl sales for the 15th year in a row.
The Everyday Hustle.
The Everyday Hustle on Asia Network is a show for young entrepreneurs where we talk getting started, getting ahead, and getting rich. And the Hustlers Toolkit is all the best tips, money hacks, and life lessons from the show in one unmissable episode.
The Hustlers Toolkit.
Join me, Sonia Barlow, as I share with you some of the best bits and gems from the Everyday Hustle in 2022. Providing loads of business advice from those in the know about how you can make those millions. Tips for success, stories of defying all odds, and how you can make your dreams a reality. Listen to the Hustlers Toolkit on the BBC Sounds app.
5 Live Sport
With Sarah Moore-Kerrins.
Yes, welcome back. We will be back at Easter Road for second half commentary of Celtic against Hibs. Celtic 2 goals up at the break. But some other football news to update you on this evening. Reece James is set to be out for up to a month after suffering another knee injury in Chelsea's win last night, that against Bournemouth. In better news, though, for Graham Potter's side, the club have confirmed that they have reached a deal with Maeda for the transfer of 20-year-old striker David Datro Fofana. Leicester's James Maddison has seen a specialist about his knee injury and he will not play against Liverpool at Anfield on Friday. And in the WSL, Tottenham are close to signing striker Beth England from Chelsea for a domestic record fee for a British player. Well, just before we head back to our second half commentary in the Scottish Premiership, Andy Murray has been on Radio 4's Today programme with guest editor Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, the British-Iranian national who spent 6 years in prison in Iran after being arrested on spying charges, an accusation she has always denied. Now, she was granted access to a TV with 2 channels, one showing Iranian soaps, the other Wimbledon tennis matches, where she just so happened to watch the former British number 1 win his second Wimbledon title. 9 months after her release, the pair caught up as Nazanin shared the emotional significance of watching Murray's victory.
For about 5 months, they didn't allow me to have any books or newspaper. There was a TV in the cell that I was in, but it was off the entire time. And then at some point, they decided to let me use the TV, but only like 2 channels. One of them was Iranian-made soap opera. The other one was a sports channel. The first thing which was on was Wimbledon. They had no idea what they had given me because I was always a big fan of you. But also there I was in solitary confinement watching the match that you actually won. And I was ecstatic just to see you win. So I was just wondering if you can tell us a bit more about that day and that match that you won.
Yeah, that was made me quite emotional hearing you speaking about that. So I appreciate you telling that. When I won Wimbledon in 2013, first time, I didn't really enjoy it. I was so relieved that I'd managed to win that event, and I felt like there was lots of pressure on me to do that. But in 2016, that was the best moment that I've probably had on a tennis court.
Mm-hmm. We all have got this experience that we remember when, for example, for one specific World Cup or the Olympics, we were somewhere special and we watched someone special winning or losing or whatever. What has been the strangest story that people have told you that they have been watching you win in circumstances that you would have never imagined?
What you've told me is by far the strangest, most incredible story that I've been told about someone watching me. Nothing has come close to that.
For me, it felt like a connection. It felt like escape. I was close to home all of a sudden. And that was through sports, and that was through something that probably Iranian government never thought that I would have, had that way of finding my way and my connection to the life that I had outside prison.
For me, your story it's incredible, and I find myself getting quite emotional that someone could be treated in that way, and just, and I would just be interested to hear a little bit, from your side, like how you feel about it all and how you seem absolutely fine now, but I'm thinking, like, if I was in that situation or someone that I knew was in that situation, that I would feel very angry about that. You seem well.
Thank you. At times I do feel very, very angry, but I guess there was a point that I decided that I should put the anger away, because otherwise it will eat me up for the rest of my life. So I was angry, I was frustrated, I was disappointed more than anything else that it took the world a long time to get me back to my child more than anything else. I think, I left my child when she was not even 2, and then when I got back, she was 8. She was a different person when I was released. For a very long time, I couldn't forgive those people who have done that to me and to separate me from my child. But then I had to convince myself that I have to survive, so I have to put all of that away. But also, I think we don't know how strong we are. Human being is so strong, but you only realize if you're tested. And I think one of the things that I struggle at the moment is I subconsciously want to be the same person that I was, whereas all of us change. I will never be the same person, but it has made me a lot stronger.
I mean, it makes all of the things that I would complain about on a daily basis, if my knee hurts or my back hurts or whatever, we all have our own problems, but listening to you and speaking to you, I'll certainly make sure I'm a lot more grateful for everything that, that I've got, for sure.
Yeah, that's an incredible story and an incredible listen. You can catch more of that interview with Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Andy Murray on Radio 4's latest Best of Today podcast on BBC Sounds. Just search it out there. Before we go back for second half commentary, just a quick update. Liverpool FC have just tweeted that we have reached an agreement for the transfer of Cody Gakpo from PSV Eindhoven, subject to a work permit, and the forward will join at the start of the January transfer window. That just coming from Liverpool in the last couple of minutes. We had, of course, had the news from PSV in the last couple of days. So Liverpool confirming that Cody Gakpo is on his way to Liverpool. Right, I think that is timed quite nicely for kick-off in the second half of Hibs against Celtic. Celtic leading 2-0, and Conor McNamara and Stephen Craigan are there for us.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Just back underway for the second half. Hibs will play from right to left as we look down, wearing the green with the white sleeves. Celtic in their change strip of black with the green trim tonight. And Celtic just flexing their muscles, Stephen Craig, in that first half, and proving on just particular moments of the game to be so much stronger. The quality of the Maeda goal sort of summing up the difference between the teams.
Listen, they're really difficult to stop, they are. And once they're in the mood and they're ahead in games, they just grow in confidence. Everybody wants the ball. You said that. The rotations are good, the movement's good, the speed of their play and the intensity they play at. There's not many teams can match it.
Livingston have scored. They're down to 10 men since the first half, but they've taken the lead against St Mirren into the second period in that 7:45 kickoff. Livingston, the team who Hibs beat by 4-0 here on Christmas Eve. There's possession with Lewis Stevenson, the left back for Hibs, but he's given it away here to Conor McGregor. Celtic are playing from right to left as we look down. They're attacking the end where their visiting fans are housed, away to our right hand side. And this is Maeda controlling the ball, swivelling to try and go around Chris Cadden. Good close touch control from Maeda. Now he gives it back to Aaron Moy. Those are the two goal scorers for Celtic combining. Good ball in from Moy. He was trying to pick out a bat at the back post, and the defenders had to be careful. They allowed it through, but with a touch for a corner to Celtic.
Yeah, it's a delightful ball in, isn't it, from Aaron Moy's left foot. I have to say, Leila Barra usually gets inside fullbacks. He's normally on the move, anticipating the ball coming in. He doesn't do it this time. Lewis Stevenson, from Hibs' point of view, just about gets it away.
St Johnstone were 2-0 down against Hearts, but they've got one back. Stevie May with a penalty. St Johnstone 1, Hearts 2 for the moment. And a goal kick for David Marshall away to our right-hand side. As he prepares to try and propel his team back into a game. They had a few chances in the first half, Hibs, that they weren't able to take. If they get any opportunities at all in this second period, it feels imperative that Lee Johnson's team must put those away. Celtic have only conceded 15 goals in the league this season, and since the start of the campaign, Celtic in the league have only conceded 6 goals from open play. That is how watertight this defence has been. As Maeda tries to attack down the right. He's got 3 defenders around him, and there's no way through as Porteous wins it back. For Hibs, Porteous normally a defender, we're playing in midfield at the moment. Free kick to Hibs, left full-back position for them, and there's just going to be a little delay here because Maeda's slow to get back to his feet, and the referee Alan Muir is going to come across just to make sure he doesn't need any further treatment. What can Hibs do, Stephen? It feels so much of their attention is going to be just on damage limitation here. How can they inflict a bit of damage of their own?
Well, I think they're going to have to trust their defenders to defend 1v1 in situations, because they're going to have to overcommit forward. Although I'm sure Lee Johnson said at half-time, listen, we don't need to get a goal in the opening 5 minutes. We don't have to, really go after it. Make sure it doesn't get to 3-0. Give ourselves a lifeline at least into the last 15 or 20 minutes.
Rangers kicked off a quarter of an hour before Celtic tonight, up against Motherwell at Ibrox. Here's Gavin Wallace.
Rangers 2, Motherwell 0. Goals in the first half from Morelos and Goldson. The difference at the break, and to be honest, it's not really had the same intensity in the second half. Motherwell have been in behind twice with a couple of half chances, and Morelos just a minute ago had a great chance to add a third. Just as Tillman's in the box right now. Tillman, goal! Rangers, just as you came to me, 3 up. Morelos with a cross ball over to Malik Tillman, and he put it well beyond Liam Kelly's right hand side into the bottom left hand corner. Rangers 3, Motherwell 0.
Good timing, Gavin. Here at Easter Road in Edinburgh, Hibs 0, Celtic 2. Early stages of the second half, and it's a throw in for Hibs, right full back position for them. And Chris Cadden, who was Hibs Player of the Year last season, takes his time over this throw in, wearing the yellow boots. Sends it up towards the halfway line. Porteous with the flick on, but McGregor very efficient as he regains possession once again. And that middle three, O'Reilly, Moy, McGregor, they've been so solid in the controlling of this game and making life so difficult for Hibs. Cameron Carter-Vickers at the back for Celtic. Gets up to almost the centre circle and rolls it to the left-hand side to Carl Starfelt. He's got Maeda outside him on the left, shows too much of it to Cadden. That's good from Hibs as they regain possession. Cadden bursts into the Celtic half, takes on Starfelt on the edge of the penalty area. That's very good from the Swede. Stood his ground, won possession, comes away with it, and now Aaron Moy with plenty of backspin puts one over the top. Manages to pick out Maeda, who's got the support of O'Reilly behind him. Celtic into the penalty area. Maeda again tried to bend it with his left boot, but he couldn't get any swerve on the shot, and it's well wide of the target in the end.
Once again, Celtic's so good in transition. The minute the ball turns over and Hibs got players up the pitch, it's one pass, it's two passes, and then suddenly they're right at the heart of your back four. Maeda coming in that left-hand side, he's trying to bend it into the far corner. You said that. He doesn't catch it right, but just another warning sign to Hibs that if you overcommit, Celtic are waiting for you.
It feels like Rangers have killed off the game against Motherwell at Ibrox with that third goal, and Celtic would like to do the same here. As Rocky Bashiri's header in field is cleared away by Starfelt. So there was Johan's header down, then Bashiri with an accurate nudge to Stevenson. Hibs have it, but they won't keep it for very long as the ball goes off Johan and out for a throw into Celtic on the right hand side. No shortage of effort from Hibs, but they are just finding it relentless. Throw in for Rio Hatate. If you missed the team news earlier on today, Juranovic is back amongst the Celtic substitutes. He was given a little bit of extra time off, and part of what I'm sure were enjoyable Croatian celebrations after another amazing World Cup for them. And we've said it all before, but for such a small population, I think countries the like of Scotland, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Stephen, could learn an awful lot from Croatia, how they go about things, and Celtic will be pleased to see Juranovic back in action soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Juranovic has actually been linked away, hasn't he? Hence the reason why they've signed Alistair Johnson as another right back just in case. But, good counter-attack from Hibs there. Chris Cadden, he's had a tough night defensively, but fair play to him. He's always a willing runner, always prepared to get forward and try and help his team.
Corner to Hibs. This is the trouble when your players go off and do well at the World Cup. I think Brighton are going to get this with Alexis McAllister too. It is some shop window. You've got the eyes of the world watching your players perform on the highest stage. Here comes the corner for Hibs. It's an in-swinger, and it's well dealt with. Good little clearance away by Starfelt initially, and Celtic get it all the way up and over the halfway line. Hibs trying to come at them again now with Josh Campbell 10 yards inside the Celtic half. Hibs playing right to left as we look down, rolls it back to Lewis Stevenson. A few groans from Hibs fans there who, having just had a corner, having plenty of players upfield, they wanted Josh Campbell to play that forward there rather than take the safer option of retreating, but as it is, free kick is awarded to Hibs and they have it near the halfway line. It'll be taken by Joe Newell, who started every league game this season. Gives it to Johan, who'll attack the edge of the penalty area left-hand side. Up against Tate. Needs a little bit of support. Stevenson provides it. Now Newell again. That's a good ball in. Nisbet was up. Should have scored. Should have at least got it on target. It flashed off his fringe, and it's well wide of Joe Hart's goal. Hibs' best chance in some time.
He just wasn't convincing, was he? It's a lovely, deft little ball in from Joe Newell. Lewis Stevenson just rolled the ball to him. He just put it in. Didn't need an awful lot of pace on it. Kevin Nisbet, for the first time tonight, managed to get him free inside about 7 or 8 yards from goal. In between Starfelt and Carter Vickers. Should have been 2-1.
Celtic fans beating the drum away to our right-hand side. Now there's a goal in the Premier League. Let's go immediately to Elland Road. Lee Blakeman.
It's Leeds 0, Manchester City 2. Terrible mistake at the back by Liam Cooper for Leeds. Gave the ball away. Grealish straight through. Squared it for Haaland, who had a tap in for 2-0. Steve Stone.
Well, Grealish, who I thought was actually quite poor first half. I thought he was the first Man City player on the pitch, was alive to that one. And once he's broke through, he's been really dynamic. He's knocked it past the centre off. Little side pass, Haaland back of the net. He was never going to miss from there. The game was actually quite interesting as well, wasn't it? It was setting up second half, and you thought Leeds were starting to just get back into it.
They conceded Leeds right at the end of the first half, right at the start of the second. Leeds 0, Manchester City 2.
Thanks very much to Lee and Steve. That felt inevitable that Erling Haaland would score back in Yorkshire, where he was born. This evening at Elland Road, Rodri got the first one. Manchester City on their way back to second in the table. Joe Hart clears the ball away, so 2 goals in 2 games for Erling Haaland, and that rest during the World Cup might end up being so beneficial for him and for Manchester City, with Norway having not qualified for Qatar. Celtic have possession here at the back. They lead by 2 goals to 0. We've played 9 minutes in the second half. That's a mistake though by O'Reilly, and he gets away with it as the ball goes back through McGregor to the goalkeeper. Now the Hibs players were complaining and saying, hang on, was that a back pass from McGregor? And the referee, Alan Muir, has indicated that although it came off the Celtic captain, it wasn't an intentional back pass. What did you make of that one, Stephen Gray?
I think he was full stretch, Callum McGregor. He's trying to make up for a poor pass from Matt O'Reilly, so I'm not too sure that would be classed as a back pass. But you know, the onus is all on now on Hibs. They're the team that's going to have to try and get the next goal and force the issue, and then it's up to Celtic whether they can just pick the right moment to really go and kill this game off.
Celtic looking for their 3rd goal of the evening. Aaron Moy and Maeda combining on the left-hand side. Maeda trying to get in between 2 defenders, but failing to do so, and Hibs will get it away. Campbell back to Cadden, right-footed ball up towards the halfway line. Nisbet jumps, but you know, even if he'd won that header, there was nowhere near him to flick it onto. Celtic exerting their dominance in a game that they've controlled from the get-go. Cameron Carter-Vickers at the back, no opponent within 15 yards of him. Rolls it low to the feet of Rio Hatate. Back into the Hibs half. Hatate to Maeda, who's been bright and energetic on the right-hand side for Celtic tonight. He was the one change in the team this evening from the win against St Johnstone on Christmas Eve. Here's a good ball in. Maeda pulls it back just behind Maeda. Penalty! Referee pointing for the spot. Was it a handball in there as Celtic were queuing up on the back post, and a chance for Postecoglou's team to get their 3rd of the night.
I have to say, what a terrific defensive splitting pass it was from Greg Taylor. We talk about Celtic playing with inverted fullbacks. He found himself in the middle of the pitch. He reversed it inside Chris Cadden once again. That's been a major issue for Chris Cadden tonight. Too often the ball has gone up his inside shoulder, and Maeda once again gets in behind him, squares it across. I think the ball deflects up onto the hand of Lewis Stevenson. He's trying to plead his innocence. Alan Muir pointed to the spot immediately. It'll be interesting to see if VAR asks him to go for a look.
Yes, fingers still up around the ear of the referee, Gavin Muir. Aaron Moy is placed it, having got his 1st goal for Celtic tonight. He wants to get another one. Interesting that Celtic missed the only league penalty they have taken this season. And it was Giakoumakis who hit the post against Livingston in October. But now, video assistant referee checking to see whether there was a possible offside in the build-up. There were a lot of Celtic players in the penalty area, and presumably in front of David Marshall. They'd all have been active. Just confirmation over the loudspeakers here that VAR are checking it. However, I think this is going to be allowed to stand. It is going to be a penalty, and Aaron Moy. Check complete. It is a penalty. So this can put another nail in the coffin of the outcome this evening. Perhaps the title race itself. Rangers getting their win elsewhere tonight, it would seem, but Celtic matching them stride for stride. This for 3-0. Moy puts the keeper the wrong way, and it is Hibs 0, Celtic 3.
Yeah, there's no way back now, is there? You know, I go back to the precision pass from Greg Taylor. Just cuts open that Hibs back line, and when the ball gets squared across from Maeda, I think Lewis Stevenson is the unlucky one. The ball comes off his hand. You know, Hibs really could have defended it better. Yeah, I just had a look as a monitor just in front. It is a handball, it is a penalty kick. And Aaron Moy steps up. It's took him a little while to get going, Aaron Moy, to cement his place in the Celtic team. But again, after a terrific World Cup for Australia, he really is showing his true colours, wide playing for Celtic. And I think that means it's going to be a long way back for Hibs.
Lewis Stevenson's handball producing the penalty kick for Aaron Moy to get Celtic's third goal of the evening, and it's been the Aaron Moy show so far, his first 2 goals for his new club tonight. So what do Hibs do now? Already echoes of their heavy defeat to Celtic in October. This might get worse. Johan has it on the left hand side. Lee Johnson will be scratching his head a little bit. The respite from that win last time out has proved to be very brief, as Maeda, look at this, running like a knife through butter down the other end, weaves his way into the penalty area, goes down again, challenged by Bashiri. Celtic want another penalty. Bashiri picks Maeda up, and VAR will look at it in the background. The throw-in won't be taken just yet. The question here was, Maeda fouled, or did he run into the defender? But lightning fast counter-attack.
Well, once again, just showing his ability to pick the ball up from deep and travel up through the gears. I have to say, my first instinct was that Maeda had actually knocked the ball off Bashiri and then fell into him. I think the referee has had a confirmation from VAR. It isn't a penalty kick, but wow, what a blistering counter-attack again.
Andrew Dallas, the VAR this evening, assisted by Graham Chambers. They decide no spot kick there. So somewhat of a reprieve for Hibs. What good it will do them, we're not sure. An hour played at Easter Road. Final game of the calendar year. Celtic as dominant as they've been throughout 2022, and it's been a tough old time for Hibs. They will hope for a fresh start into 2023. Here is Taylor for Celtic. Low pass to the feet of Maeda, who's full of buzz down the left hand side, forcing Cadden to run backwards, plays a little 1-2 into the box with Kyoko, but can't get on the end of it there, Dyson Maeda, and that's going to be a goal kick for Hibs, and David Marshall, the former Celtic goalkeeper, who's got the noise of the singing, celebrating Celtic fans ringing in his ear, away to our right hand side. Hibs 0, Celtic 3.
He's certainly in the groove tonight, Dyson Maeda. I'm sure he'll probably put it up there as one of his best performances in a Celtic jersey. And when you have the likes of Jota waiting to come off the bench and Haksabanovic ready to get himself into the team once he's fit and available, then you know you have to perform when you have the jersey.
You know, this hasn't been the happiest of hunting grounds for Celtic in recent seasons. They don't have a good record here at Easter Road. Just one win for Celtic in the last 9 Premiership visits to this stadium. But it has seemed a very comfortable surrounding for Ange Postecoglou's team so far tonight. This is Josh Campbell for Hibs, who battle on, but it already feels very much in vain with half an hour to play. Johan, left wing, encourages Abada to come close to him, then tries to spin away. He's dinked one over the top here, which bounces heavily on the turf and takes a little spring away from Kyle McGuinness, and that goes out for a goal kick to Celtic, and Celtic are going to make a change, and things, as we said, might get worse for Hibs before they get any better. The man who got a hat-trick against Hibs in October is going to come on. James Forrest will replace Leo Abada.
Yeah, you know, it certainly doesn't weaken the team, the fact that James Forrest is on. Ange Postecoglou likes to get in and around the 60-minute mark. He likes to just freshen it up. You know, the players on the pitch have put so much into it. They play such a high-intensity, dynamic game of football that, you know, you always have to keep refreshing it, keep bringing players on, and James Forrest will certainly be looking to get on the score sheet as well.
So 3-0 to Celtic here, 3-0 to Rangers at Ibrox against Motherwell. And Motherwell, who were complaining of an outbreak of illness in the squad in the days leading up to the game, and I wonder if that's been a factor against them this evening. Dundee United, bottom of the table, 2-0 against Ross County, who were second bottom. There were just 2 points between those two at the start of the evening. Kilmarnock 2-0 up at home to Aberdeen. Aberdeen unbeaten in the last 16 visits to Kilmarnock, but they've certainly got the work cut out for them if they're going to try and get back into that between now and the end of that game, which of course is 15 minutes advance from us. They'll only be into the last quarter of an hour there. Livingston 1-1 against St Mirren. This is 5 Live and BBC Sounds. We're live at Easter Road in Edinburgh this evening. This is Conor McGregor, midway inside his own half, bringing Celtic back into Hibs territory with Greg Taylor now to Maeda, thoroughly enjoying himself up against Cadden now, sprinting at him at every opportunity. This time low ball into the box, trying to pick out James Forrest, and Hibs are able to get it away. Porteous puts a big boot in it and wellies the ball back into the Celtic half, and in fact out of play for a throw-in on the far side. But yep, Celtic just can't give it to Maeda enough now, and he's got the card of Chris Cadden, who's a hard-working, good full-back, but absolutely getting burned time after time again now.
Well, I said ahead of the game that if Celtic are on point tonight and their big players turn up, they're going to be very, very difficult to stop. And because of Celtic's system and the full-backs always playing in the pitch, it means that the opposite players, the wide players of Hibs, are going inside to pick them up, which means Abada was 1v1 in the first half. It's now going to be James Forrest in the second half. But more importantly, Maeda is 1v1 against Chris Cadden, and he's having a field night.
Ball through to Kyogo. He's in here. That's a great touch around Bushiri. It's a fourth for Celtic. That's a special goal. Furuhashi making it look easy on a wild night with wind and rain howling around him. He was almost balletic how he took it around the strong, tall frame of Rocky Bushiri, and then without a heartbeat, it was already on its way beyond David Marshall. So calm, so collected, so comprehensive from Celtic. 4-0 they lead here at Hibs.
Well, he's had to be patient tonight, Kyogo Furuhashi. He hasn't had a lot of service, he hasn't had many opportunities, but that's the sign of a top quality player. When the big moment arrives for him, he's a terrific first touch. He moves it brilliantly away from Bushiri, splits those two Hibs central defenders, then has the composure just to roll it into the bottom corner with his left foot. He's certainly a man on form. Georgios Giakoumakis can't get a game, and it's a wonderful goal once again from Celtic.
4-0. Hibs are going to make a double change here. And while those substitutes are being made, let's nip to Elland Road in Leeds and join Lee Blakeman.
Still Leeds 0, Manchester City 2, but Leeds with a free kick to the left of centre, about 26, 27 yards out. Greenwood spotting it up and lining it up with his right foot, but Mark Rocker isn't moving away from it either. He's moving to the left of the ball, so let's see who's going to strike it. It's going to be Rocker or Greenwood. This would get Leeds very much back in the game, Steve Stone.
Yeah, and they've been coming into it. They've had some really good opportunities to press miles better. They've opened themselves right up, and this is a good opportunity for them.
Greenwood on his right foot, strikes it, hits the wall, comes back out, and that should be cleared. Leeds fans staying in good voice, a few light-hearted chants being aimed at Calvin Phillips. We've just had a rendition of Marching On Together as well, but with 63 on the clock, it's Leeds 0, Manchester City 2.
Right, thanks very much, Lee. Here at Easter Road, Hibs 0, Celtic 4, 25 minutes to play. Triple change from the host. Noah Kennock has come on, a player who's got Leeds connections of the past. He came through the youth academy at Elland Road. Aidan McGeady, a former Celtic player, will come on against his old club, and Harry McCurdy as well. So 3 changes. Is it going to be 4 changes for Hibs? No, 3 changes. McGeady's coming on down there wearing number 46. So at least fresh legs, but it sort of feels almost about resting players for the next contest. Hibs' next 2 games are away. The Edinburgh Derby at Hearts is next, and straight back to Lee for another goal at Elland Road.
Haaland back in Leeds, and he's got his second of the night. Leeds 0, Manchester City 3. Ball in from the left, presented to him 7 or 8 yards out. 26 in all competitions this season, Haaland, and that was one of the easiest to score. Steve Stone.
Well, he's made it look easy, hasn't he? But it's come back to him really quickly, and he's got his body over the ball, side foot in with his right foot, opened his body up really well. Keeper tries to get across and save it, but can do nothing about it. It's been coming.
Good ball in the first place from Jack Grealish down the left. It was a weak hand for Meslier, couldn't keep it out, and it's now Leeds 0, Manchester City 3.
26 goals, and we are still in December. What figure is Erling Haaland going to finish on, I wonder? So one of Celtic's goal scorers goes off, takes the applause of the crowd. Kyogo Furuhashi, he's on his way off. They're going to be bringing on 2 players here. Georgios Giakoumakis, the Greek forward, comes on wearing number 7. And there's also an introduction for the Argentinian Alexander Bernabeu. I'm sure he'll have enjoyed events from afar, watching what happened in Qatar at the World Cup with his fellow countryman. The first Argentinian to play for Celtic is on, so Giakoumakis and Bernabeu on. But it does feel like the Christmas turkey is well and truly cooked here. 4-0, quarter of the match to play, Stephen Craigan.
Yeah, Lee Johnson said ahead of the game that he doesn't want a repeat of that 6-1 defeat. You mentioned it back in October, and sometimes when you start saying things like that, it plants a little seed in players' minds, and they'll certainly be thinking about it now. The one thing we know about this Celtic side, they're relentless. They don't give up. They're not just going to settle here for 4-0. If there's opportunities and goals there for them, they're absolutely going to go for it. Forrest will want goals, and Giakoumakis will certainly want some, so Celtic aren't stopping.
What Hibs have done is, with the change, they've taken off defender Paul Hanlon, and Ryan Porteous has dropped back into the defence. Noah Kenna has come on to play in midfield where he was. Harry McCurdy, forward who joined from Swindon in the summer, came on as a sub for the last 20 minutes against Livingston. Last time out, he's going to get just a little bit more than that tonight. He's on to lead the line in place of Kevin Nisbet, who had got 2 goals in each of his last 2 games. Here's Maeda again. Maeda already on the score sheet tonight. Porteous with some neat defending on the edge of the penalty area, and Chris Catton's able to clear the ball away. 1-2 with Johan didn't really work out. Johan, who's moved to the right wing, with McGeady coming on to play in his natural habitat on the left, and some studs are left in on Catton, and that's going to be a free kick to Hibs.
Yeah, I said earlier on when we were talking to Sarah that Celtic force you to be good with the ball because they put so much pressure on you, so you've got to move the ball quickly. If you don't, and you're a little bit loose or you're a little bit slack, they just simply take it off you and they go and attack. And that's been a few occasions in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Hibs have been a little bit sloppy with the ball, and Celtic are just setting traps, or just waiting to go. So Hibs really don't want this getting any worse.
Rocky Bashiri at the back, 10 yards outside the penalty area, rolls it back. Some Celtic fans doing the Poznan away to our right hand side. They've got their backs turned to the play, arms interlinked, and they're bouncing up and down. These celebrations, which have been in motion right from the start of this campaign, and that Poznan is now spreading right across. It was just a few of them initially, and now it's about half the visiting fans away to our right hand side. Cross into the penalty area, sails over everyone in the middle. Nice skills though from Giakoumakis to keep it alive. And Celtic really are toying with Hibs now as McGregor tried to chip one into the penalty area. Header out by Cadden. Controlled by McGregor here. He's got 2 around him though. Johan with a fancy back heel, which wasn't anticipated by Josh Campbell, who gives him a look to say, come on mate, we're 4-0 down, we don't need that sort of fancy flick. And Celtic get it back again immediately.
The problem is, once Celtic get to this stage where they're enjoying themselves, and everybody wants the ball, it's a thankless task for Hibs to first of all try and be competitive in the game, but also to try and keep the score down.
Celtic hoping for another clean sheet this evening. Free kick to Celtic midway inside the Hibs half. McGregor takes it short to Moy. Now Hatate, who's still at right back. Bernabeu, who came on, is playing on the left hand side. It's his 8th league appearance for Celtic. He's on the ball at the moment. He's playing a nice ball into the penalty area. He goes, comes up. Bashiri could have gone in for an own goal. It sails over the crossbar. That came off the heel of the defender and was nearly Celtic's 5th corner.
He didn't know anything about it either, Bashiri, did he? Big let off.
Absolutely nothing as the corner is taken short, and Aaron Moy, who's got 2 goals tonight, one of them from the penalty spot, gives it back to McGregor. Really are toying now as a shot from distance from Hatate sails over the top, and a goal kick to Hibs. Well, Celtic benefited from an own goal 2 games ago. Their win over Livingston. Ayo Obalai put it into his own net in that game, and here Rocky Bashiri very, very nearly did the same. A lot of Hibs fans beginning to make their way out into the evening. Still plenty of time to get to the pubs before last orders, but they don't see a comeback in this, and Celtic fans are going to stay there and enjoy it right the way through to the end and hope their team might get a few more goals. Remember, Celtic got 6 when these sides met in October. They could do it again. This is McGregor, strong under pressure in the midfield. He was caught there by McGeady. Free kick to Celtic. 2 old teammates there, McGregor and McGeady. Nathan McGeady, who's back in Scotland after being with Everton and Sheffield Wednesday and Preston and Charlton and Sunderland as well. Sunderland, where he played under Lee Johnson. And He's had his injury problems this season, so he hasn't had to been able to play much, particularly in the league. Here is McGregor, 10 yards inside the Hibs half. It's a nice little 1-2. Matt O'Reilly keeps it moving. Forrest in the penalty area, just stepping back outside the box, teeing up McGregor onto his right boot, shoots in low and comes off a defender, and Hibs are hanging on now. Hanging on at 4-0 down, hanging on that it doesn't get any worse. Bernabé into the edge of the D, gets on the end of a 1-2 off Aaron Moy, tries to cross on the left-hand side, and Cannon is on hand to clear the ball away.
Yeah, they just make it look so easy. You can see Hibs, the body language, the energy's been zapped from them. They're stuck back, they're deep, they're not picking anyone up. It's Celtic, it's almost like a training game. It's just too easy. They're just moving the ball, recycling the ball side to side. And again, they've got that quality at the top end. They've got the likes of O'Reilly and McGregor always looking to prize those little passes in between defenders.
Celtic on their way to their 33rd league win of the calendar year 2022. This is their last game of the year. That is the most victories that Celtic have had in a calendar year for 2 decades. Ange Postecoglou has come in. He's been very shrewd with his transfer dealings. He's obviously got extremely good contacts in Japan, where he's worked in the past, and he's been able to bring those players in and get them gelled with the established players. And Celtic looks such a force now. This performance tonight just summing up everything that this club has been about. Cameron Carter-Vickers brings it out deep from the back. Tonight a 19th game in the league for Celtic, and they are on course for their 18th win of the campaign. And as good as Michael Beale might be at Rangers between now and the season, if Celtic don't drop points, it doesn't matter what Rangers do, they ain't going to catch them.
Yeah, I think that's the pressure that Celtic had put on Rangers. Even if Rangers, did win the derby on the 2nd of January, they'd probably have to win the rest of the league games to overcome Celtic, and I don't think Rangers are in that right frame of mind, or the squad's not in the right place to be doing that. So, Celtic's consistency has been brilliant, and you spoke about Ange Postecoglou. The job he's done has been absolutely remarkable. You said that, considering where they were when he took over and where they are now. And as much as we all talk about Celtic players moving on, no doubt there'll be eyes looking towards Ange Postecoglou, admiring the job he's done, and may somewhere along the line someone may have a little bit of interest in him. So if you're the Celtic fans, enjoy him while he's here.
Well, Celtic's next game is away. We mentioned that. The trip to Ibrox, playing Rangers on the 2nd of January. Then it's 3 home games in a row. They play against Kilmarnock, then St Mirren. St Mirren, of course, have beaten them this season, so they'll want revenge in that one. And Celtic will also host Morton in the Cup. And for Hibs, their next 2 games are away from home. The Edinburgh Derby, across at Hearts on Monday. And then they've got a trip to Motherwell, as we go back to Elland Road, where there's been another goal for Lee Blakeman.
Leeds have got one back. Leeds 1, Manchester City 3. Greenwood corner, swung in, free header for Pascal Struijk. Weak hand from Ederson. Is it over as a contest, Steve Stone? Or
well, we were just talking about that. We were saying it's over as a contest. Pep was making the subs as if it was over, but Leeds are the only team probably in the league that can keep going with the energy that they've got.
Pep Guardiola's brought on Cancelo and Foden for Grealish and Rico Lewis. We have got 17 minutes to go. Leeds 1, Manchester City 3.
Thanks very much, Lee. Rico Lewis making his first Premier League start tonight. Recently turned 18. Leeds, who are just 2 points above the relegation zone, and after tonight they'll have played the same number of games as all the teams below them. But you've got Leeds, West Ham, Everton, the 3 clubs just above the relegation zone. Wolves, Nottingham Forest and Southampton in the bottom 3. 14 minutes to play at Easter Road. That's a good run by Johan. Runs into Starfelt, nothing fancy from the Swede. Puts it out for a corner to Hibs. And I don't think they're going to take anything from this game, but they'd love to get consolation goal for the supporters, who in increasingly dwindling numbers are hanging on to watch this through to the bitter end. Hibs 0, Celtic 4. It's been every bit as bruising as it sounds. Sheary's up, Porteous 2, Kenna. The delivery comes from the far side, an in-swinger too high for Porteous. McGeady's going to try and resurrect it on the left-hand side. He's up against Maeda. Always got a trick or two up his sleeve, McGeady. Delivers with his right boot. And eventually it's cleared away by Alexandro Bernabé. And Celtic have it up to the halfway line once again. This is Lewis Stevenson, the Hibs player who gave away the penalty earlier on in the second half. Crossed by Newell into the penalty area. A little bit off balance, Starfell, but did enough, got it away. Cameron Carter-Vickers completed the clearance. It's got a little bit scrappy from Celtic in the last couple of minutes, and maybe a chance here of a shot from Joe Newell, but although we got a bend on it, it was just bending into the arms of Joe Hart, and comfortable save for the Celtic goalkeeper. Stephen Craigan.
Yeah, they just don't convince you that, you know, they're going to score, Hibs, as much as they're, you know, winning the ball on the edge of the box and they're putting crosses into the box. And it's probably one of the parts of the Celtic game people don't talk enough about is defensively. You know, Carl Starfeld's been very good tonight. His position's been good, his reading of the game. Cameron Carter-Vickers is always someone I've enjoyed watching, good in possession, steps out with the ball, but you know, they're ruthless defenders. They don't like conceding goals, and at times you're exposed. They have to play man for man. So, you know, Hibs are pushing and probing, but Celtic just aren't relenting.
Celtic 4-0 in front on 5 Live and BBC Sounds. Tomorrow night, 5 Live Sport round the grounds in the EFL Championship and League 1 and League 2 games. And then there are Premier League games on Friday night. West Ham take on Brentford, Leicester go to Liverpool. And Brendan Rodgers' team, who just seemed to have recovered a bit of form before the World Cup break, but they were comprehensively beaten by Newcastle on Boxing Day. Here's Aaron Moy inside the penalty area for Celtic, who are hunting down their 5th goal of the night now. He's helped out by James Forrest. Butterbait fancies a shot, deflects off a defender, and it's comfortably saved by the goalkeeper David Marshall. Our commentaries on Saturday on 5 Live for the Premier League are Newcastle against Leeds at 3 o'clock, and we will bring you Brighton against Arsenal at 5:30 Saturday, which I believe is New Year's Eve. You can never be quite sure this time of year, but I think that is the 31st. As McGeady here passes it back to Marshall, 2 former Celtic players combining, but it's not been their night in Hibs shirts this evening. Clock ticking on slowly now. 11 minutes of normal time to go, Steve.
Yeah, and I think the Hibs players will be looking towards that final whistle now. They won't want any more damage done. It's been a tough night. They knew it was always going to be physically demanding. Mentally, you've got to stay tuned in. But sometimes you just have to hold your hands up and say you've been beaten by the better team, and Celtic have been streets ahead of Hibs tonight. There's work to be done for Hibs. 3rd place European football, that's got to be their 2 aims. But they'll certainly, you know, they won't come up against this quality every week, but defensively still I think they're conceding too many goals.
That's it. It is tantalisingly still possible for Hibs, despite the poor run of form. There's only 2 points between them and the top 3 at the start of tonight. Here comes Giakoumakis into the penalty area for Celtic, tees it back to O'Reilly. That's the best save of the night from Marshall. Out to his left, strong left arm to deny Matt O'Reilly what would have been his 1st goal of the season, and Celtic's 5th of the night. It's going to be a corner to Celtic, but Marshall prevented the scoreline from getting worse. 10 minutes to play here. Celtic have taken the corner. It's all over at Ibrox. We'll go there in just a moment when this breaks down. McGeady inside his own penalty area, tries to dribble his way out of trouble. He's got a bit, cheery me, he's done around the world on the edge of the box. He gets it back and eventually away, and that brings a few wolf whistles from the Celtic fans and maybe a smile or 2 as well. All over Rangers against Motherwell, Gavin Wallace.
Rangers 3, Motherwell 0 goals from Morelos, Goldson and Tillman, enough to ensure Michael Beale's 100% start keeps on rolling as Motherwell slip to 10th. Rangers 3, Motherwell 0.
Also an 8 o'clock kickoff at Elland Road. Lee Blakeman.
Leeds should be back in it. As it stands, still Leeds 1, Manchester City 3. Gelhardt, though, has just missed a sitter to get Leeds right back in this contest. He stuck out his big toe 6 yards out, agonisingly wide of the bottom corner, Steve Stone, after great work down the left from Greenwood.
Well, at the other end, it should have been 4-1 to Manchester City. Then you go right up. We just said beforehand, Leeds are the only team in the league that never know when to give up. This is the late show every single time. You can see the Leeds fans really starting to get behind the team just with 10 minutes to go, even though they're playing a top team like Man City.
To steal your phrase, Connor, the Christmas turkey not quite cooked here. Leeds 1, Manchester City 3.
No, it'll take a few more minutes in the oven, but Manchester City will be hoping that they can still hold on there. We'll be back to Lee and Steve if there's any developments. We've got 8 and a bit minutes to go here at Easter Road. Celtic in command. Hibs have brought on Ewan Henderson to replace Campbell. Henderson, another with Celtic connections, joined a year ago from Celtic. And the visitors are about to make a double change of their own late on here. Young Rocco Vata, who's only 17, is going to come on. son of Rudi Vata, who played for the club in the past, and Jota too, who's been a regular in the team this season. He's going to get a late cameo as well, as a rather tired ball in by the blonde Ewan Henderson is easy pickings for Joe Hart.
Yeah, and I think, when you see the likes of Jota on the bench, it just shows you that Ange Postecoglou doesn't get emotional when he's picking teams. He picks players in form. He said Jota's form's dropped off a little bit. He'll have watched Dyson Maeda tonight and thought, well, I might have to sit on the bench for another couple of games because he's been absolutely terrific. But for Chris Cadden, it looks like he could be up against Jota as well now.
He's across from the left. Giakoumakis was in the middle, ready to bounce, and Rocky Bashiri gets there first to put it out for the corner to Celtic, who they have kept their foot on the throat here. There's been no let up at all, and here comes the introduction of the fresh legs of Jota and Vata. Vata, who's a youth international for Ireland. His dad, Rudi Vata, was an Albanian international, and he will come on here in place of Matt O'Reilly. O'Reilly, who'll probably feel he should have been on the scoreboard tonight. His shot saved not so long ago by David Marshall. Maeda's the other player who is going off. He's done well. You've been impressed with him tonight, Stephen.
I have. There's sometimes I've watched him play and it can be a little bit inconsistent. It can be a little bit erratic when he gets himself into the final third. But tonight, he was absolutely on it. He had Chris Cadden coming short, spinning long. He was always getting the better off and scored one. Probably could have scored another couple.
Any late drama at Elland Road, Lee Blakeman?
Yes, Leeds have got a free kick, still trailing City by 3-1. Rocker with his left or Greenwood with his right, 22 yards out. If they can score this, it's game on with 81.5 minutes on the clock. Foden behind the four-man wall, acting as a draft excluder. It's going to be Greenwood. Stuart Atwell blows his whistle. Big moment here at Elland Road. Greenwood steps up on his right foot, over the wall and wide of the top corner. Still Leeds 1, Manchester City 3, Steve Stone.
Yeah, it was a great chance, and Leeds still believe they can get something out of this game. We've talked about them being the late show in every game that they've played recently, whether it goes for them or against them. They'll go right to the end. It could go the other way. You can see Manchester City catch them on the counter-attack as well.
8 to play, City 3-1 up.
Thanks, guys. No such jeopardy laid on here at Easter Road. Celtic are cruising to victory here, 4 goals in front. For Ange Postecoglou, his first trophy in this job came when he beat Hibs in the League Cup final. That was this month last year. Everything was out of sync after the COVID year before. And having had a 6-goal victory against them in October, Postecoglou will be thinking, can we play Hibs on a more regular basis? He said nothing but good feelings against them in recent times, as Starfelt gives it out to the far side. And Celtic will just keep coming. They've got this enormous goal difference already, but they have it for very good reason, as Johan is back helping out the defence, and he's done well there actually. Backheels the ball off young Rocco Vata and out for a goal kick to Hibs. Clock ticking on, 5 minutes plus the stoppages to go.
It's just the appetite of the Celtic players. With the manager, he's the driving force. He asks questions of them continually, pushes them all the time. Sarah was talking before the game saying he doesn't look happy when his team don't play well, so you can see that pressure and focus he puts onto them. It's replicated on the pitch, and tonight they've absolutely been bang on the money.
33 league victories in the calendar year. For you, Stephen, where does this Celtic team rate against the sides you've seen over the last decade, maybe the last 2 decades in the hoops?
Yeah, well, when Brendan Rodgers came in, he kind of changed the way Celtic played. They were fast attacking, playing. Actually, Scott Sinclair was in the side, Scott Brown was in the team. I think this team and this setup that Ange Postecoglou has eclipses that. I think they're really, really good, really impressive to watch. He's built strength and depth. He's got plenty of options he can chop and change.
Roddy, for you've obviously seen so many Celtic teams. How good is this one compared to their predecessors?
Well, they have a solid rock in Callum McGregor. Stephen was just referring there to Scott Brown, who many people thought might be close to irreplaceable as a Celtic captain. But at that goal that Kyogo scored, you may not have noticed in the immediate aftermath of it, but in fact McGregor had won 4 consecutive challenges to get the ball to Hatate. Hatate played a textbook pass, Kyogo finished in textbook fashion. So that puts this Celtic team up there with the best in recent years for me.
Their 9-point gap at the top of the table intact. 19,730 is been announced as the attendance tonight. There's much fewer than that in here now. Many of the Hibs fans have headed towards the doors. Celtic fans staying on for the late celebrations. As a cross in from Jota, had plenty of whip on it, but no touch from anyone in the middle, and it flashes across the face of goal and wide.
Yeah, you know, it just shows the depth they have when they're bringing on Jota. You know, they've spent over £5 or £6 million on him over the summer. You know, you think about Juranovic has been linked away and Giakoumakis has been linked away, but that's the business model of a lot of football clubs, particularly here in Scotland, that, you know, you have to bring players in, give them the opportunity, give them the opportunity to go and showcase themselves, and eventually they move on for bigger money. That's what they have to do. But, you know, Ange Postecoglou, you said it, the strike rate in the transfer market has been absolutely sublime.
That prospect of playing in the Champions League is such a good carrot when Celtic are trying to attract promising players. They know they'll have that shop window to be in. That's a decent delivery from the right hand side from Hatate, and just about hacked away for a corner. I mean, Hibs defence have actually worked really hard tonight. This could have been 5, 6, 7-0 tonight, but for some sterling defending at times, and yet even with that endeavour and effort, Celtic have still managed to get to the back of the net 4 times. Jota's going to take the corner. Left hand side in front of the very joyful Celtic supporters. Jota's delivery is too low on this occasion, though, and it's headed away by Chris Cadden. But Hibs can't get out. Bernabé back to Hatate, centre circle. Starfelt into McGregor. The ball never stops with Celtic, fizzing around. Down the left-hand side they go. Jota, a couple of step-overs. Johan's got to be careful. Fell in front of Jota in the penalty area, but referee was very close to it, decided that there was nothing ill at hand, and that will be a goal kick to Hibs away to our right hand side. You mentioned, Stephen, you know, that they won't all be as difficult as games as this for Hibs. Are there positives for Lee Johnson to take it at all from this tonight, or do you just forget about that, move on?
Well, I think you have to forget about it and move on. And, you know, what will please them is how they started the game and the opportunities they created. You know, they tried to go toe-to-toe with Celtic. It's a risk because, you know, you're committing everything to the game. Defensively, I still think, you know, some of the goals they give away could have been avoided if people are in better positions. They're reading the games a little bit better. So, listen, he's got work to do. He knows that. But certainly, you know, when you come up against a class side like Celtic, if you give him anything at all, he will bite your hand off.
Into the final minute tonight in Edinburgh, live on 5 Live and BBC Sounds. Hibs 0, Celtic 4. And referee Aaron Muir just making sure that this has all been taken from the correct position here. It's a throw into Celtic, right full-back position. The result is not in doubt now. Celtic just looking to hold on to the clean sheet at this stage. They'd love to nab a 5th just to really put a glossy shine on things. Manchester City, despite late scares, on their way to a late win at Elland Road, and Rangers already victorious tonight at Ibrox. And here comes Celtic with McGregor to the left wing and Jota. Black shirt streaming forward through the middle. This is Bernabé. Little 1-2 with McGregor. He's into the penalty area, to the byline, tries to pull it back. Good defending, Cadden again. He's worked so hard this evening, Chris Cadden. And for the umpteenth time tonight, Celtic have a corner as we move into 3 minutes being added on for stoppages. The corner is taken lightning quick. Moy, who's on a hat-trick, turns on the edge of the penalty area, rolls it in low to the feet of James Forrest, but his first touch wasn't great, and then he couldn't find the pass to Jota with his second, and Celtic hold on to it, but they're back to the halfway line.
You know, sometimes when you're watching Celtic playing and they're in this mood, you have to actually count it. They have 11 players and the opposition have 11 players. That's how dominant they've been. And naturally, when you're 4-0 up, the body language is different and the energy levels are, you know, there. But, you know, tonight it's been a really good one for them.
It's been a good run out ahead of the derby as a shot from Jota took a deflection and goes out for a corner. Had it not been for the deflection, it would have been at least on target. David Marshall was diving down that side. He may well have made the save, but as it is, off a defender, corner to Celtic on the right hand side, and no injuries tonight that were apparent. And Postecoglou's team are going to go into that derby against Rangers in very good form on the 2nd of January. Jota will take the corner from the right hand side, came in low, came off Noah Kenna. To be fair, his arms were down by his side. It may have struck an arm, but he wasn't making that silhouette of his body any bigger. Mind you, the referee is delaying the restart with the throw in. VAR wants to have a look at this. I'd be surprised though, and yes, immediately they do wave play on, no penalty. I mean, you couldn't give a penalty for that.
You know, the ball just came at so much force and so much pace, didn't it? You know, he couldn't get himself out of the way. Luckily, his hands were at the side. I think VAR's got it right.
This is Cameron Carter-Vickers. I always remember the old Sylvester Stallone Rocky movies when they tried, I think it was in Rocky 2, they wanted to change him into a southpaw to catch out Apollo Creed, and they tied his right arm down, tied it to his side so he couldn't use it on the punch bag. And you just imagine young defenders training now with clubs and academies, coaches will be tempted to just tie their arms to their chest, because keep your hands down has got to be drilled into the next generation of defender.
I know it seems very unfair for defenders, because people talk about natural and unnatural, and unless you're playing in that position, you don't know what's natural for the body movement. But you're spot on.
Here comes Alexandro Berebe, who's been bright and lively in his substitute appearance here. Mind you, it's been a nice period of the game to come into when Hibs have been exhausted and Celtic have been rampant, but the Argentinian's done well. Here's Jota to McGregor, who's ever hungry. There's no easing off the gas from Callum McGregor. He wants Celtic to get the fifth here in stoppage time. Jota on the edge of the D. Is there room for a shot here? He gives it to Forrest. They're trying to run it in. Forrest might do so! Over the top. He gave it the outside of the right boot, and it's deflected out for a corner. Celtic won't get much closer than that without getting the back of the net.
You think at times they're just toying with them as the referee blows a full-time whistle.
And there it is, done and dusted. Hibs 0, Celtic 4. That 9-point lead is intact going into the derby. Aaron Moy getting his first 2 goals for the club tonight. Maeda was good too, and Celtic simply too strong, Stephen Craigan.
Well, they are. They've got such strength and depth, and I said a real appetite for the game, hunger. And you just watch them play, and the quality they have, the movement, everything about the play tonight was absolutely spot on. Ange Postecoglou said a couple of games ago after being Livingston that they weren't clinical enough, they weren't taking their chances. 8 goals in 2 games is certainly some response.
Yeah, no late drama here. The horse had bolted some time ago. Hibs probably fortunate that the scoreline didn't get higher. That is how good Celtic have been tonight. Completely dominant, Sarah. Hibs 0, Celtic 4.
Yeah, hugely.